Eyewitness News presents NewsMakers, winner of the Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasting Award for Excellence in Public Affairs Programming, with your hosts, Jane Ann Bugda and Andy Mahalchik.
Hello and welcome to NewsMakers. I'm Jane Ann Bugda along with Andy Mahalchik. It is shaping up to be another busy construction season for PennDot all across the Commonwealth. Today we're talking about projects, potholes, paving, and safety. I'll introduce you to our guests, and our conversation will begin when this edition of NewsMakers returns right after this. Welcome back to NewsMakers. I'm Jane Ann Bugda along with Andy Mahalchik, and today we are on the road with PennDot. We are talking about construction, potholes, paving, and we'll be joined in the second half of the show with the safety officers to talk a little bit about safety. But for the first half of our show, we are joined by James May from District 4, Ronald Young from District 5, and Dave Thompson from District 3. And gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. I can't say it's your busy season because PennDOT's busy all year long.
It's always busy, true.
Right?
We're always busy, yeah.
So just to give our viewers just a little bit of a reference for the districts that you serve, just tell us a little bit about some of the counties that are in each of your districts.
I cover District 4. I'm the press director for there. We cover Lackawanna, Luzerne, Pike, Susquehanna, Wayne, and Wyoming counties.
And Ronald?
And we cover District 5, which is south of here. It's Berks, Carbon, Lehigh, Monroe, Northampton, and Schuylkill counties.
District 3 is north central Pennsylvania, and that's Bradford, Columbia, Lycoming, Montour, Northumberland, Snyder, Sullivan, Tioga, and Union County.
So we have a pretty, we cover most of the viewing area right here.
And really, you know, when we talk about Eyewitness News, we cover technically 17 counties, but more like 20, 21 on the periphery. So these are the folks that when we have questions, you have questions, we ask them to find out what's happening, and they respond to us. And I got to give them a lot of credit here, because a lot of times when we contact them, it's not a nice situation. It's either maybe a situation that's not too good with road conditions or projects, or motorists are frustrated, so these folks always respond to us, so we appreciate that. Let's start off with the number one question, number one P word today, potholes. All of us live with it. We know we have our favorite pothole out there. Let's start with James. James, what do you want the folks to know about? People say, why can't we get ahead of these potholes? What's going on?
Well, a lot of people will take a trip to Florida sometimes, and they come back and they say, you know, why are the roads in Pennsylvania not like the roads in Florida? We hear that quite a bit. And, you know, I always point out one factor is that in Florida, they can spend the entirety of their budget all on fixing roads. A little over half of our budget is spent on salt and winter maintenance. And so when you start off with the entirety of your budget simply going into roads and bridges, that makes a big difference. The other factor is that they don't have the freeze-thaw cycle that we have. They don't have the salt that they're putting down on the roads. And really, it's the freeze-thaw cycle. That's what creates a pothole. When you have as much water as we have in this area, and you have the runoff that you have, and you have that freeze-thaw cycle where the water gets down into the road, it freezes, and then in the daytime it thaws, and the more water gets in and it freezes, just like the pipes in your house that will eventually crack if they freeze and water's in there. That's what happens to the roads.
And I know there's a section down in Ronald's area during that Schuylkill County Frackville area. A lot of potholes in there. Is there any, we have a lot of questions about people asking any time frame on getting those fixed, patched, paved?
Well, first I want to reference, over the past decade, we've had multiple projects along Interstate 81 in Schuylkill County to address different areas. We're addressing the worst areas first. Currently there's a project out by the areas of Route 61 and 309, that section. We do plan to get to the Frackville and the area where we know what's happening there. Some of the longitudinal joints, which is the joints where the two lanes of paving meet, moisture got in there in the winter and froze thaw, like James had mentioned, and the joints are popping, and they're out there almost every day. Our Schuylkill County maintenance folks are out there doing some type of repair, and we are hoping to get all the holes patched. We do get complaints through the hotline, which you referenced, and the also on our website, almost daily for that section. And we're not going to sugarcoat anything here. We know there's a problem there, and we're addressing it. And our district executives are also trying to work with our financial people in Harrisburg to get a little more money so we can do a little bit more work in that area on Route 81 in Schuylkill County. So.
And David, we know you have no potholes in your district.
Yeah.
Well, we try to take care of them as the complaints roll in. When people call our county offices, we're very active in getting out there and taking care of potholes. We do pothole patching year round. Even during the winter months, we get out there and we try to keep them filled. But this is a pretty common thing statewide. I mean, as James said, we have a very aggressive freeze-thaw cycle in Pennsylvania, and it's just part of the season that we go out there and take care of them. Try to get good.
Andy, one of the practical things that the public can do to help out with potholes, and they think there's nothing that the public can do.
Don't drive.
Don't litter.
Only kidding. Only kidding.
Actually, don't litter. And I say that because one of the things that I hate to see is when our crews are out there picking up litter. And it becomes one of those issues that if we're not doing it, then it just sits there sometimes. So anytime that our crews are out working on litter pickup, that's time that they're not spent filling potholes and working on drainage.
It's also money.
It
About
is.
over $10 million a year from PennDOT's budget goes to litter removal, and it's nowhere near fixing the problem, because the problem is way too big. We could spend $100 million and still probably not keep up with it.
But a real practical way that they can help out with potholes, don't litter or adopt a highway, and anytime you're doing that, that's freeing up some of our crews that they can be spending time on potholes, not spending time on litter pickup.
And we do want to mention that you're also using a new type of asphalt for paving. Talk a little bit about that. How is that?
It's relatively new. We've been using it in our district. It's called recycled asphalt, where we wrap. We always love acronyms or shortages at PennDOT, condense things. We've got pages of acronyms, but it's recycled asphalt. And what it is, we're taking the millings when they mill off a major highway like Interstate 81 or 80. We've got projects going on. Take those millings to one of our bigger stockpiles, reuse them on a lower volume road, mix it up. We create what's called a pug mill. We have one in Monroe County. Last year we did about 5 miles of roads. Campikiba Road we did, and we also did Manor Drive in Monroe County. And they're lower volume, less than 3,000 vehicles a day, and less than 10% trucks. And what it does is it's our staff doing it, so it doesn't be contracted out. And it's literally for that job, it was roughly $284,000. If we would have contracted out to the traditional mill and pave in the industry, would have been close to $600,000. So there's savings there, and we're able to take that savings, like James said, and put it maybe to potholes or somewhere else in the county. And as part of the governor's initiative under the roadmap program, the road maintenance and preservation, through the state police money coming out of our budget getting reduced by the legislature passed a bill in 2016. That's getting reduced to $50 million every year. That money's coming to PennDOT, and they're putting it into things like this, and it goes through roughly 2028, I think is when it levels off, and by that point it'd be $2.1 billion additional coming to PennDOT.
Let's talk about projects, and I mean there are projects every single day, we know that, but the marquee projects in your districts coming up, what can people expect? Let's go back to Dave. Marquee project, of course, is
CSVT, Central Susquehanna Valley Transportation Project, better known as CSVT. Work started on that, I believe, in the winter of 2015, but we had a groundbreaking in the spring of 2016. It's a $670 million project. The centerpiece really of the project is the River Bridge project. That's $156 million. Work is about 2/3 of the way completed on that. CSVT is a 13-mile limited access highway that connects Route 147 in Northumberland County with Route 15 in Union County, and then connects with Route 11 and 15 in Selinsgrove, near Selinsgrove. Folks have often referred to this as the Shamokin Dam bypass. This project is intended to reduce congestion and improve safety in the Shamokin Dam corridor, and take through traffic, truck traffic, and cars that really are not originating or have the Shamokin Dam area as a destination, take it out of that corridor.
And these are pretty amazing photos of the...
It's a big project.
It is. It's a huge... Is this the biggest in the state? Is this one of the biggest?
I believe it may be at this time.
I-95 in Philly might be bigger, but that's not a brand new road. They're reconstructing I-95 down in Philly, but
this
is the
project
biggest
is very
brand new
amazing
project.
to see it go from just a pile of dirt being moved to seeing the piers of the River Bridge project kind of rising up out of the Susquehanna River Valley. I don't know if you've driven through that area at all. James and Ron visited there a couple weeks ago. It's an absolutely amazing project. The bridge itself is nearly a mile, will be nearly a mile long. The highest pier is 180 feet high. You can tell from some of these
Dave was
photos.
supposed to get us bungee jumping off it, but he didn't come through with that.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't find a bungee cord strong enough. So yeah, it's quite a project. We're really proud to see this unfolding in my tenure here at PennDOT.
And really for the folks down there, you know, in the larger metropolitan areas like Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Lehigh Valley, you know, you've seen projects of that scope, sort of, like Cross Valley, North Cross Valley, 7822 down in Lehigh Valley. But this really, for the folks there, this is a major deal.
It's I've seen photos of people with their lawn chairs coming out to watch it, so it's something of a tourist attraction. The fact is, PennDOT is a maintenance-first organization. You know, our goal really is to maintain the road and bridge network that we have. So to build a 13-mile limited access highway and invest $670 million in this project, it really means a lot.
And Ron, tell us a little bit of some of the projects in Monroe County. You have a few going on.
Yeah, we've got a couple bigger ones going on in Monroe County. 611 Scott Run to Swiftwater. That's really designed to make some safety improvements there. Brookdale Road is a skewed intersection, doesn't have a traffic signal. It's going to get its traffic signal when this project is done. And it's reconstructing 611 on that stretch from the ground up because it's old. It's reached a point where it has to be just, can't be patched up anymore or just milled and paved. It's got to be reconstructed from the ground up. So that's going on, and that's going to go on through 2020. So people need to keep that in mind. And we're almost halfway there on that project. And then we have another pretty big one out at Interstate 80 exit 310 by the Welcome Center as you come in from New Jersey. Two bridges, the ramps over 80 at the interchange are being replaced or old. They're structurally deficient. They're going to be designed and built as a new wider structure, so when 80 ever gets widened that far out, if it does, it'll be able to accommodate that. And then there'll be a roundabout down at the intersection of Foxtown Hill Road and Broad Street 611 right by the Welcome Center. So that'll eliminate that signal that's there now and should make things move a little more efficiently there when it's all said and done.
And we know we're
James,
talking about
just a few things up here in Luzerne County area.
A couple two-tree things, as they say, right? Yeah. Well, I think the one that probably excites the most people, and I think Eric was the one who had the story a few weeks ago, on a project that we're doing that will result in the widening of 81. And as these guys mentioned before, if we just go to the feds and the money people and say, we would like to get money to widen 81, they would come back and say there's no money available. But what we're doing, and you know what, maybe I'll even use props here to show you what we're doing, and this is so you can actually see how this happens here. If you have an old two-lane highway like you have here, pretend this is the 2 lanes of Interstate 81 and it's going northbound, southbound. What we're doing is we're coming in, we're going to add a 3rd lane to that so that we can maintain 2 lanes of traffic. We put all the traffic over here. And then we replace this one. When we replace that one, then we put the traffic here and here. And that's why sometimes you'll be driving along and you come to those splits, and then we replace this center lane here. And when you're done, you end up with a 3-lane highway. So what we're saying to the feds then is, hey, we have to build this 3rd lane anyway as part of the reconstruction project. It's a reconstruction project from just south of Dunmore all the way down to the Lackawanna-Luzerne County line. So we're going to them and we're saying, hey, look, since we have to build that 3rd lane anyway just to maintain 2 lanes of traffic there, when we're done, we'll end up with a 3-lane highway. That's what everybody wants, and they seem to be okay with that. So this month is when the scoping team is out there looking, and they're going to look at all of the issues that come up. And it's amazing how many issues. People say to me all the time, well, just add the 3rd lane in there and be done with it. They have to look at everything from a historical standpoint, environmental. Are we moving any of the roads closer to houses? And if so, what's the impact on the noise wall? Everything from, are there endangered bats to endangered rattlesnakes to wetlands. Yeah. Right-of-way issues. There's just a lot of stuff. So right now there's crews out there that are looking at all that stuff, putting it all together, and then we give it to a consultant. And it's still a few years down the road, but we're in the first stages of that right now.
And we have a similar project on 80 between between exits 303 and 307, where we're a little further ahead of their project. It's in preliminary engineering right now, but we're working through now identifying where it can go where. We've got detention basins that have to go in, etc. So it's going to be a big project similar to 81, these roads. And as James mentioned, when they're being built and being reconstructed from the ground up, these interstates, we're under the gun to keep traffic flowing on it while the work's going. So we try to keep 4 lanes open all the time, and to do that, you got to widen the footprint anyway, because you have to add that extra lane so when you're shifting traffic. So you have that. So a lot of people say, oh, you can just rebuild it. You don't need to widen and take people's property. Sometimes it's not an option if you want to keep, on 80, you want to keep 60 to 80,000 vehicles moving through there every day. You got to have those lanes.
And there's a lot of bridges just in that stretch from Dunmore to the Luzerne County line. There are 16 bridges just in that stretch. There's 67 bridges from Clark Summit to Nanticoke. And so if you're driving along and you have a 3-lane road and all of a sudden you hit a 2-lane bridge, it does no good. It just backs up. So we have to go through and look at all the bridges that you're crossing, the bridges that you're going over, because if you add that 3rd lane and the bridge that you're going under has piers right where the new lanes would be, that does you no good either. So a lot of factors that you have to look at. But we're actually starting the very first step in that, and people have been asking for it for years, and it's finally on the horizon.
And we've talked about some of the projects here, but there's also a website on the PennDot website that people can go to and look at different counties and see, because these are big projects, but if it's happening in your community, any project is a big project, because it's. Yeah. And I know people grouse and grumble, but it's for a safer travels.
Yeah, every one of our projects is on that website, from the smallest up to the biggest, like the CVST, down to the smallest paving job of maybe $500,000 for a couple miles of road. They're all on there. You can go to PennDot.projects.gov and you look it up, look your county. You can look up your particular road if you want to.
And it's interesting, in what we do here at Eyewitness News. Of course, we're advocates for citizens, ask the questions of, those folks like you, the lawmakers, those in Harrisburg. I try and keep it in mind in perspective where it's heavy lifting. It's not going to happen overnight. Even paving takes time, but that's relatively short compared to what you guys are talking about with these major projects. I keep in mind the project on Interstate 80 heading out to State College. If you've ever gone to Penn State games over the years, for years and years and years, it was a nightmare going out there. We all know that. But now you take that ride, and I get out there quite a bit. My daughter lives out there. It's a beautiful, smooth ride for the most part.
I think you're talking
now James
about
has it all jammed
Clearfield
up.
County.
It's great.
Backing up into my
But it took
district.
time to get done.
Yeah.
Down by Berwick, the Mifflin, the bridge is there.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
the Mifflin-built River Bridge
Yeah, that was a nice
project.
bridge.
But it takes time.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, but there's no
That was
magic
District
pill.
3.
And we do want to mention one more, the Cross Valley. That changed a little bit.
It did, and that was a project that was underway. We had it all lined up, and you do all this planning, and what do they say, the best laid plans of mice and men. You do all the planning, and we were all ready to go on that. And closer to the hospital in there on River Street, there was a pipe under the ground that began collapsing. There was issues with it last winter, but they came back to us and said it's getting really, really bad now. And not under an emergency type of permit, but pretty close to it. They said if we don't get this done quickly, there's going to be some long-term issues. And so we ended up going back, meeting with the hospital, and they had some concerns with the delay that would be caused by having 2 work zones there right back to back. So we moved that project from that side to the other side of the Cross Valley, so that we just moved it over. So the work will still continue, but we just had to go back and re-plan because of the outside circumstances that took place.
And I do want to remind everyone, there's the hotline to call, or the website, in case someone does have a concern with one of your roadways, the 1-800 Road, or they can go on the website, and then they get to you all, and then
On the main page of our website, I believe it says submit customer feedback, and it takes you to our customer care center. You can log it in there online too, and that's probably the best way to do it, because then it's tracked better that way. It creates an email that goes to usually one of us, and then we look at it and we assign it to the appropriate people, and it gets a response.
Yep.
And we do want to remind everyone, today's information is on pahomepage.com. Well, we enjoyed the conversation with James, Ronald, and David, because we're going to make way for the safety officers who are going to come in and talk a little bit about safety on our roadway. And we know they'll be back because their projects are going well into the 2025. So thank you, and thank you for keeping our roadways safe.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Thanks for helping
you're
us.
watching Newsmakers. You can find information on today's show on pahomepage.com. And as we head to break, Andy and I are very proud. We were recently in Hershey where we picked up another Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasting Awards for Excellence in Public Affairs Programming. Thank you. You're watching Newsmakers. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Newsmakers. Jane Ann Bugd along with Andy Mahalchik. We're here now with the PennDot safety officers. We are joined by Rebecca Ryback. She's with the Northeast Highway Safety. Christina Sullivan, Lackawanna County Highway Safety. And Michael Taluto, the PennDot Press Safety Officer. Thank you for joining us. We are doing our little safety check with the PennDot safety officers here to talk about our safety on the road. And of course, Andy?
We talk about, we hear the word steer clear. When you're on the highway, what's that all? Remind our viewers.
We want them to pull over if they see emergency vehicle. It's to move out of the way, move over. It is to keep the emergency managers able to do their job, and you keep going. So that's what it is, to keep the person that's being in the major injury or something happening to people to stay clear of it.
But also keep in mind when they're trying to pull over, if you can safely pull over. Because I see some folks might be driving down the highway and say, I see a trooper, an ambulance, whatever, and they may not be thinking, they're swerving to the left and not realizing there's a car there or there's someone coming nearby.
Right.
And then, of course, you know, when we're traveling, and we talked about a ton of projects earlier, let's give our PennDot workers a break because they are on the job.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about the work zone safety. What do we need to know?
All right, well, with work zone safety, we know that a lot of our PennDot workers are getting killed, and a lot of crashes are happening in work zones because drivers aren't watching the signs of the posted speed limits, or maybe they're, rubbernecking, and then they're ended up getting, in a crash. And we just want everybody to know that the PennDot workers, they have families. They have to go home to their families. They're out there doing a job, whether they're actually working, standing, waiting for orders, but they want to get home safe too. And this is becoming a real statewide problem, is workers getting hurt in the work zones and drivers not paying attention in the work zones. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. We're worried about the workers, and then the drivers have to worry about their safety also.
And we talk about texting and driving, of course. We see it, we're on the highway quite a bit with what we do in Eyewitness News. And it just blows your mind when you see these folks and they're taking a quick glance down, and that quick glance can mean tragedy, Christine.
Yes, yes. The laws in Pennsylvania say that you're not supposed to text and drive, so for everybody's safety, I mean, we're a technology age now, and it's very hard to keep everyone off of their cell phone, but stay off the cell phone. It's against the law. I would urge anyone not to use the cell phone even while driving to make a phone call, except perhaps in an emergency, but stay off the phone. Lives are lost every day, every day.
We see a lot of the warnings and the accidents, and we talk about it. Why do you think we're not getting the message?
Well, actually, we are getting the message, because in 2017 we had the lowest fatality rate.
Oh, that's good news.
So the statistics showed that we had the lowest in Pennsylvania's history, that we had the lowest fatality rate. So it is getting out there. Sometimes it frustrates me when you still see people, you could tell them and tell them and tell them, and they still text and drive. Even on like seatbelts, we have 90% of the people wear their seatbelt. It's the other 10% that we have to go out and tell them to wear their seatbelt. So we are making some headway.
So let's talk about the other campaign that PennDot talks about. It's Click It or Ticket.
Yeah, Click It or Ticket, and we're actually in the mobilization right now. And again, it's just a reminder that it is a law in Pennsylvania to wear your seatbelt, and we want everybody to stay safe. Like Mike said, that we're close to 90% of people in Pennsylvania wearing their seatbelt, and which is great for a secondary law. So we really want to encourage everybody to wear your seatbelt. It saves lives.
Is it almost like muscle memory? Because I remember, at least my generation, you know, cars that had seat belts back in the 60s or 70s, early 70s, you didn't think about it because it wasn't talked about that much. People sound their seat belts, and then later on when the alarms would go off, they again plug their connect their seat belts so the alarms would go off. But are we getting to a point where it's just second nature now? You think?
I think a lot of prevention and starting early with the younger kids. We have stronger car seat laws, stronger booster seat laws, and I think that, you know, kids are starting to remind their parents. They know they have to buckle up and on. But I think you're right. Is you know, with our new technology, the beeping sounds and everything like that, and I think that, you know, it's becoming hopefully more habit. People know how important it is to wear it.
And I do know that PennDOT does offer many times throughout the year car seat safety.
Yes.
So we always, Michael's always kind enough to send us out different events that are coming up and different events that are coming up throughout the year. So we will always have them on our website, pahomepage.com. One word on safety. What would you like to remind people? We have a little less than a minute.
I would remind people to follow the rules, take your time, buckle up, do not text, and if you have a child in your car, use the proper child safety seat.
I would say you can't multitask, so don't try it.
Buckle up every trip, every time.
Every time.
That's very good. Multitask. Your task could be driving the car, paying attention.
Right.
Yes.
That's
Right.
it.
Exactly.
And our PennDOT safety officers do go out and do talk to the public about the rules of the road. So we remind you can find that information on pahomepage.com. We want to thank you for taking this little safety
Thank
break
you.
with us to remind people about some of the common sense safety of the road. For Andy Michalczyk and everyone behind the scenes, we want to thank you so much for making Newsmakers part of your day. Drive safely, and we'll see you again next time.